Welcome back to my channel. As you know, my name is Trisha Morris, and today we'll be doing calculus, and our subtopic is limit. How do we find the limit? First, I'm going to start off with introducing limits. By defining it, we have to know what is a limit. Then we're going to go into the different rules of finding a limit. It's very important that we know the rules, or some persons like to call it the laws. Now, this is a general definition where we know the limit as x tends to c for the function f of x is equal to L. All we're saying is that we have a function, and the common function is 1 over x. As x tends to infinity, we know that the limit of 1 over x as x tends to infinity is 0. So when we say we're finding the limit, we're finding out which value this function is getting closer and closer to, and this value is considered to be the y value. So L represents the y value. It means the limit of a function f of x as x tends to c is L. Now, what are the laws? Say we're given the limit as x tends to c for some specific function is L. Now, if we have a constant, let's call the constant k, I'll multiply k by the limit. For example, take the limits as x tends to 2 for 3x squared. Now, from here, we can factor out the 3, which is the constant. So the 3 represents k, and find the limit as x tends to 2 for x squared. Place x squared with 2. So 2 squared is 4, so 4 times 3 is 12. Now, say for example, we have two limits. So you're given one that tends to L, which represents a number, and then you have another limit which represents M. Now, we have addition and subtraction of two functions, and it's approaching some value. What is that value? What we can do, we can find the limit just as before, and we just add the values that we get for each limit. So, for example, let's look at this example. Find the limit as x tends to -1 for x squared minus 3x plus 2. But wait, before I continue, let's stick a pin. One thing you need to know, guys, is that limit of a number is a number. So if I have the limit as x tends to 1 for the number 5, really, we don't have any x to substitute the 1, so that means the limit is 5. So if I have the limit as x tends to 4 for the number 2, the answer is just 2. So the limit of a number is the number. Let us continue now. So right here, so we are going to find the limit of each of the terms. So we have the limit as x tends to -1 for x squared, the limit as x tends to -1 for 3x, and the limit as x tends to -1 for 2. Now, if you realize the signs, so if you look at this, we have the signs, and if you can recall, when we have two functions, we just find the limit of each and add the result. So we find the limit of x squared to arrive at -1 squared. We find the limit of 3x. So we have 3 times -1. And I've stated before that the limit of a number is the number. So -1 squared is 1. -3 times -1, that's +3. And add the 2, so your answer is, yes, you're correct, 6. Now we also have, when we have two functions and we multiply them, so we have the limit as x tends to c for f of x is L, and the limit as x tends to c for gx is M. When we multiply, the limit of f of x times the limit of gx is equal to multiplying the limit of each function. So what do I mean? Let's get into the example. So say, for example, we have the limit as x tends to 2 for 4x minus 3 and 2x. What we can do is find the limit of each of the function. So we replace, so we find the limit of each of the function. So as you can see, we have the limit as x tends to 2 for 4x minus 3, and the limit as x tends to 2 for 2x. Substituting 2, we have 4 times 2 minus 3 and 2 times 2. Now, calculating the first square bracket, we have 4 2's 8 minus 3. So that gives us 5, and 2 2 is 4. So the answer for this is 20. Now just remember that all we're saying, this will be my fx and the limit for it is 5. And this is my gx and the limit for this is 4. So 5 times 4 gives me 20. Now we can also have the division of two functions. And dividing, sometimes we cannot go ahead and say, oh, the answer is 0 if we arrive at 0 and substitute the limit. Whenever we have 0 over 0 in the division format, we see we have to do more work. It's in the indeterminate form where we have to do more calculation to find out what is the answer. So let's look at this example where we have the limit as x tends to 3 for 4x minus 7 over x minus 2. The first thing we're going to do is replace the variable x with the number 3. So replacing it, we have 4 times 3 minus 7 in the numerator and 3 minus 2 in the denominator. So calculating the numerator, we have 4 3's 12 minus 7. So 4 3's 12 minus 7 to give me 5. And 3 take away 2 is 1. So we have 5 over 1, which is 5. Now, not all the time we're going to get an exact value just by substituting. There are times when we substitute and we arrive at 0 over 0. So in a case like this, replacing the variable x with 2, we have 2 squared plus 4 times 2 minus 12. 2 squared is 4. And 4 2 is 8, so 8 plus 4, that's 12, and 12 minus 12 is 0. And it's the same case if I have 2 minus 2, that's 0. So that's how we have the 0 over 0. And whenever we have that, we have to more work in the terms of factorizing. So here we have a quadratic in the numerator, so we can factorize. Just remember, we need two numbers that multiply to give us -12 and add to give me 4. And if you haven't visited my video with factorization, please pause, revisit factorization, then you return to my video with limits. Now, two numbers that multiply to give me -12 and add to give me 4, we have +6 and -2. Now, something like this, we don't have to do this step. We could just say the factors is +6, -2. So that means the answer is x plus 6 and x minus 2. That is okay. But for those who like to see the steps, you would replace the center, which is 4x, with the 6x and minus 2x. Just remember, 6 and -2 represent the factors that multiply to give you -12 and add to give me 4. Now, after doing that, we will group. So we have them in two defined brackets. Having them in my brackets, I am now going to factor out what's common in the first bracket. So in the first bracket, you realize I have x squared plus 6x. What can I factor out? You should be seeing x. While in the minus 2x minus 12, in the minus 2x minus 12, what's common that I can factor out? You should be seeing negative 2. So when I factor out the x, we are left with x plus 6. And in the next bracket, factoring out the negative 2, we're left with x plus 6. So what we have, x minus 2 and x plus 6. Now, what are we going to do with this information? We are going to use this information to replace the numerator. So this numerator, which is the quadratic, I will be replacing it. So now we have x minus 2 and x plus 6. Now you should realize that x minus 2 and this x minus 2, we can cancel. So these two cancel. So what is left is the x plus 6. And once we have canceled, we can substitute the limit, which is 2. So we have 2 plus 6 to give me 8. Now, what about the limit as x tends to negative 3 for x squared minus 9 over x plus 3? So for this one, if you realize we have 0 over 0 again, how is that so? So let's substitute x equal negative 3 into the function. So negative 3, replace it in the numerator. So we have minus 3 squared, take away 9. And in the denominator, we have minus 3 plus 3. So minus 3 squared is 9, and 9 minus 9, that's 0. Minus 3 plus 3, that gives me 0. So that's how we have 0 over 0. So we have to now do more work with the numerator where we have a quadratic. And guys, it doesn't mean it's only the numerator that is always going to have a quadratic. It's just a coincidence to have it like this. But you can also have the quadratic in the denominator. So x squared minus 9, we have to factorize this. So factorizing it, difference of 2 squared, it becomes x minus 3 and x plus 3. Again, I do have a video on factorization. So now we're going to substitute the numerator with x minus 3 and x plus 3. So replacing it, we have x minus 3 and x plus 3. And again, we will be eliminating the x plus 3. So it's gone. So eliminating it, we are left with just x minus 3. And now substituting x to be negative 3, we have minus 3 minus 3. So my answer is negative 6. So my limit, which is my stopping point, is negative 6. So remember I said, guys, not all the time, it's in the numerator. We can also have to factorize twice, because looking at this, I'm seeing some squares, guys, and I'm like, really? This looks hard. That's a typical expression from my students. Miss, this is hard. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to burst my brain cells? I'm just trying to pass. But it's not that difficult. So first you replace the numerator and the denominator with 2. That's how we arrive at 0 over 0. So in the denominator, 2 squared is 4, minus 2 times 2 is 4. So 4 minus 4 is 0. And the numerator, you should realize, is similar to the quadratic that I gave in the first example for factorizing. So we have to again factorize, guys. We have to, because once you have 0 over 0, we have to see, so what can I eliminate to arrive at the answer? So again, two numbers that multiply to give me negative 12 and add to give me positive 4. So we did it already where we said 6 and negative 2, and we replaced the 4x with 6x and negative 2x. Then we group After grouping, we factor out what's common in each bracket. So we factor out an x in the first bracket to arrive at x plus 6 within the first bracket. Then in the second bracket, we factor out a negative 2, and what is left within the bracket is x plus 6. Now grouping, we have x minus 2 and x plus 6 as before. But in the denominator, we have to do something more because we're seeing another quadratic without a constant. So looking at this, the denominator our focus is on now, we have x squared minus 2x. And if you realize, I replaced my numerator with x minus 2 and x plus 6. So let's get back to denominator. So for the denominator, we have x squared minus 2x, and we need to factor out what's common. The only thing that's common that I can factor out, highest common factor, remember I have a video on this, is x. So factoring out the x, we're left with x minus 2 within. So we are going to replace the denominator with x into x minus 2. So after doing that, so you should realize that x minus 2 in the numerator cancels the x minus 2 in the denominator. So what is left? So canceling them, we have x plus 6 over x. Now we can substitute the values. So we have 2 plus 6 to give me 8 divided by 2. So my answer is 4. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like my video and subscribe to my channel. Have a great day.